Hello and welcome to the Agenda on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes and I'm joined, as always, by Phil Moorhouse of A Different Bias. How you doing, Phil? You all right?
I'm all right. Yes.
Yeah. Big shout out to everyone in the chat. We've got Vendetta in there, Chris C, Gallifreyan Wren, Hating Puds. Love a bit of Puds. How you doing? We've also got SG and Saz in there. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat, just hit the subscribe button and wait for 1 minute and you will be able to opine fairly openly. Okay, so Phil, I know you've already said this is a daft question, but...
silly question.
Does Starmer need to go?
No.
Why not?
What's next?
Explain. Explain.
So, first of all, again, are we going to get into one of these things where it's because of the way the Tory media present things rather than reality, in which case, what do you want? What's the alternative?
Well, no,
what stops
for me,
the Tory media
more
presenting
about
things in a certain way?
Labour scoring loads and loads of own goals.
They scored some own goals that are really bad ones.
Yeah,
like in a tight score. But again, if you're liking it to football,
for
it's
no
not a bad
reason.
idea. But if you're liking it to football, this is the situation. So you like a team, scoring's tight in the first half, and yeah, you've scored 3 own goals, so you're 3-0 down. It looks really bad, right? Your fans are starting to leave. But we also know that the stuff Labour's doing well, which people don't know about, is coming online. So you've still got to think in a few years' time how this will work. And again, it comes down to this, like a different leader wouldn't, although you might be thinking of 2 or 3 specific policies you really hate, and I may really hate, and you think about a particular leader who might not have made those same decisions, but they also may not have made all the other good decisions. So they could still be on their way out at the next election.
Well, yes.
Who would there be? There be?
Let's leave optics aside for a moment, right? With a leader, and I don't know who could replace Starmer, but with a leader who was more, I don't know, connected to the way normal people speak, if you want to call it that, they could sell sand to the Arabs, as the expression goes. Like, they could take a shit policy and make it sound wonderful. And what Starmer can't do is that he still looks, we're a year in now, and he still looks like a rabbit in headlights. Every time he's asked a question, he's like this, and he's really stilted, and he doesn't talk like a normal person. He sounds like a robot. And I'm just like... What?
Yes, the Holy Grail is someone who is good at organising, on top of their brief, and...
secretly ruthless.
It's a good orator. Oh yeah, well, you always have that. But a good orator. The oratory is... But no one else has it. No one in Labour has it. Who has it? Because if you cannot name anyone who has that skill of oratory. They don't have it.
This is the anti-monarchy question, isn't it? When everyone sort of says, we should do away with the monarchy, and they're like, what would you like to replace it with?
Well, no, because
if we had a king, then if we had a president, then Jimmy Savile would be president. He was very popular, wasn't he, back in the day?
Well, I would suggest Boris Johnson, but I know I am myself someone who says, be careful what you wish for in that regard. But nonetheless, it's fairly obvious what you can replace it with in that case. In this case, it's not at all. Like, you can go through some of the ones, we know some of the people who would be involved in a leadership challenge. So you've got Angela Rayner. Now, she is appealing to a certain group of people, but very, very unappealing to another group of people.
Phil, I don't really want to go down the route of looking at other people in Labour who might be a better or worse leader. I just want to talk about his performance as Prime Minister over the last year. I mean, there's been a few wins, and I'll give him that. But mostly, Phil, like, he has not seized the initiative. He's not taken control of the narrative in Parliament or in the tabloids or on social media or anything. He's not ridden on a wave of hope that things can change for the better. In fact, he has... I mean, you could argue he single-handedly destroyed the hopes and dreams of thousands of people in the UK. by his actions, especially when it comes to his discrimination against trans people. I mean, that's the big one for a lot of people on the
it's
left.
not. The big one is the rhetoric about it.
Okay, the rhetoric, making trans people feel like they're not welcome in society. And we see this today. There's a news report about the new ECHR report saying, they should discriminate against trans people in the fucking cinema. Like,
well, or they've actually come out and they're going to recommend you're not actually allowed to have a piss if you're trans.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly,
but again, you're either going to talk about, because you say let's leave optics aside, but you're talking about optics. So are we talking about optics or are we talking about policy?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's a bit of both.
You've got to tell me.
I put policy to one side because I think even with bad policies, if you can spin it, and Tony Blair was great at spinning it, he won 3 elections on the trot. Whereas Gordon Brown, absolutely awful at spinning anything.
Yeah.
He just looked really miserable all the time. Yes. And, he was a good chancellor. I'll give him that. But he was a shit prime minister. He lost the only election he stood for as prime minister. He lost.
Yeah, I mean, the couple of things about that, though, is, to be fair to it, so he wasn't a good at campaign. He wasn't a shit prime minister. I think he was a very good prime minister. But he wasn't a good campaigner, which, to stay prime minister, you need to be.
Yes.
But, you could also say Gordon Brown was prime minister when we had a banking crash, and that was always going to cause problems, particularly as the government had been they were the established government at that point. The 2005 election, although in terms of seats wasn't close, in terms of vote was bloody close. So there's a certain extent to which Labour would have struggled in 2010 anyway.
Yeah.
Gordon Brown didn't help. And also you had quite a lot of infighting beginning in Labour because inevitably, because this is the problem, one of the big problems Labour keep having, particularly since 2001, when they, for the very first time ever, won a proper election from government. They technically did under Attlee, but not for very long because they didn't have a majority, really. So they thought to themselves, we've cracked it, we know how to win elections. And as soon as it's a bit like, when I was growing up in Doncaster, you had the Doncaster Council, we had Donnygate, we had a Donnygate when I was young. Because all the councillors...
significant enough to have a gate?
Yeah. It's got a big gate. It's got St Sepulchre Gate. It's where the big shopping centre is. But which is a grim name to call anything where you get lots of people to congregate. But anyway, the point was that because Labour just always won, it was just a Labour town, won. You end up with basically, Donny, it was because massive corruption. It turned out all these councils were hideously corrupt, and it's what happens when you don't have to take elections seriously. As soon as you think you've cracked it and the election is a formality, that's when vested interests start to come
absolutely. And then it becomes about who's selected to be an MP or who's be a councillor.
In this case, a councillor. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Same thing in Liverpool. Same thing in Liverpool.
You'll get it everywhere. Everywhere where you don't have to take elections serious, even if they are free and fair elections, if for whatever reason you think it's a foregone conclusion. Because the reason why you have political pragmatism is to win elections. You have to adopt certain lines to win elections. As soon as you don't have to, then ideology starts to come into it. And it's a small number of people who control what that ideology is.
Yes.
So,
I think that's the problem here.
But that was the problem in 2010, or it's one of the problems.
But that's not the problem here. The problem here is that we have an incredibly reactive government that just reacts to things. It's not. It doesn't seem to be proactive about anything.
No.
The transphobia seeping out of Labour from every pore at the moment came about because of the Supreme Court ruling, which was a ruling on an interpretation of a law that Labour brought in. Labour could use a statutory instrument to define the law from 2010.
No, they wouldn't use a statutory instrument. They would just amend it. That'd be easy. No, it didn't arise from that Supreme Court ruling. It's not. That's when it all kicked off. But it's quite clear to me they made a conscious decision to do this in 2023, because if you look at some of the things, I mean, it wasn't obvious at the time to me. At the time, I interpreted it. There was a definite shift in 2023, complete shift. And I interpreted that at the time as they were sick, because I saw the interviews. Every time Keir Starmer or any senior member of Labour was interviewed by Tory Kunzberg or anyone like that, it would always be, oh, what's a woman? And then they would say, they go, oh, I'm not sure. I'm confused. I'm a bit thick, You're going to have to spend 10 minutes explaining it to me. And they were sick of the fact that they couldn't talk about serious issues because they were constantly being talked about, oh, what's a woman and what's a cervix? Do you know what a cervix is? And so I just thought it was strategic from that point of view. Then we had, when they first formed so at that point, I'm just thinking, look, they're just toning it down a bit. Then I remember the very first PMQs with Starmer, and I remember Nadia Whittome asking a question, stuck in my mind, because there were fears at the time about how Labour were going to be applying this report because it was in the manifesto. Now, I thought there was plenty of cover in the manifesto because it specifically said something like this. They used the term scientific. The implication was you wouldn't have to actually implement anything in the cash review if it couldn't be considered scientifically valid, which none of the report was because it wasn't even peer reviewed. And when it has been peer reviewed, the peers have gone, yeah, this is bullshit, mate. And also the cash review didn't actually suggest anything that Wes Streeting has done. So the policies he's enacted in the NHS for trans people, and it's supposed to be based on the cash review, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because I read it, and it's not in there.
Yeah.
But it's also the cash review, as it had anything. Well, you see, this is my point, though. This is my point. See, people then at that time.
Phil, can I just interrupt? Sorry, we did get a super chat. Thank you very much to Kirsty McTeer for the £2 super chat. Please donate to the Good Law Project trans case. Absolutely, and thanks for the super chat, Kirsty. I really appreciate it.
So this is my point about this. So at the time, we think to ourselves, I was saying at the time, Wes Streeting's clearly got bad advisors here, because if he genuinely thinks that somehow these things are harmful to trans people based on zero scientific or medical evidence, and even the cash review didn't say they were, I read it in detail. I had to in the end after this furore. So I'm thinking, well, he's just got bad advisors then, hasn't he? Or he could be transphobic, we don't know either way. But the way that Labour have, after that Supreme Court ruling, just fully swung in, it's very obvious it was not Wes Streeting's decision. This is a central leadership decision. It's not come from Wes Streeting, is what I'm saying.
Another reason why central leadership might need to change.
Well, it's the advice that needs to change.
They change themselves or we change them. The reason why I picked this today is because I'm in various Labour groups, right, across different media, right, and lots of people are talking about that they've run out of patience with Starmer. They've run out of patience with him. They gave him the benefit of the doubt for the first few months when he was running around telling everyone how awful everything was and how it was all going to be so bad and making everyone cry. And then we had the Labour Party conference last September where everyone was just dead miserable, even though they just won this landslide election. And he's taken Labour from a landslide election win to the lowest polling position Labour's been in ever since 1900.
In government.
No, ever. I think it's ever.
No,
even when the previous leader was in charge.
No, it's not. It's in government.
Okay, well, then the lowest position it's ever been while they've been in government.
In
power. He's got to take the blame for that. And the thing is, if you want to revitalise the Labour Party and then go, I don't know, this is now a new Labour, the way to do that clearly is to have a change at the top. To say, well, no, that was the old people. This is the new people now. That makes thing.
So what you're doing now is you're putting a lot of emphasis on echo chambers, small numbers of people, as opposed to the big population. What would happen? First of all, like I said, you can't take it out of isolation. You cannot change a leader unless you have an alternative, right? The Conservatives tried that, and they were right to get rid of Boris Johnson, but who did they get? Liz Truss. Did that do them any favours?
No.
They'd have actually been better. They couldn't keep Boris Johnson in his particular case because he was going to be suspended from Parliament. But nonetheless, in a situation, let's imagine that wasn't certain. The Conservatives would have been better keeping Boris Johnson than getting Liz Truss in. And the same thing with Labour. So you have to say who would be better, and there is no one. There is absolutely no one. First of all, there's absolutely no guarantee that anyone that you think would be different would be different.
In the chat.
Secondly,
go.
And the second thing to bear in mind is you've got to focus on the vast majority of voters who, if you get rid of the leader, it's like, so what changes? Because if you change policies, then you're breaking your manifesto promise.
No, but you don't have to. I mean, there was nothing in the manifesto about banning puberty blockers for trans kids. There was nothing in the manifesto about that. There's a lot of there wasn't.
There was.
What? That was in the Labour manifesto.
Yes, it was in the. It wasn't explicit, but there was a line there which, now that it's been implemented, people will then say. But the thing is, again, you're again making this. You keep coming back to this issue. It's an incredibly serious issue for the people it's affecting, but it's not. And this is my argument for why Labour shouldn't have done it. It doesn't.
It's not a vote winner, it's a vote loser.
It is a vote loser.
It's a vote loser across the board, and they didn't have to do it. And the reason why I'm trying to sort of steer the conversation away from policy, I don't think that policy matters as much as being able to sell whatever it is you want to sell. Boris Johnson managed to sell Brexit. He managed to sell the biggest act of economic self-harm a modern, advanced economy has ever committed in history, which is going to be relative now to what Trump's doing in America with his tariffs. But at the time, it was the biggest act of self-harm. In the chat, so there's interesting discussion going on in the chat. And if you would like to join the chat, please subscribe to the channel. You can join in. Andy Burnham is the only Labour politician popular with boomers, says Jason. And then on the back of that, we've got a lot of people saying, I hate Burnham. Callum saying, Burnham is a slimy liar. So there you go. And Svea Lance is saying Burnham is a weather vane, sadly. And then Jason is saying Burnham is literally the only Labour politician popular with boomers.
Because he can say popular things. Like, he's doing a good job in Manchester, right? I
think he's doing a great job in Manchester bringing public transport.
But he hadn't had to do anything. He hadn't had to do anything controversial. Like, what has he done? He's massively improved transport. That's right. I'm not saying easy, but it was like, it's something you're going to.
Tony Blair never did that.
You put him in a. Well, he was never mayor of Manchester, to be fair. You put him in a position where he's actually got to come up with policies that have major drawbacks. Sean, they're saying Starmer's a Tory. You realise this now? No, of course he's not. Again, do I have to go through the list? Do I have to keep going through the list? Biggest boost in employment rights in my entire lifetime. Biggest boost in nationalising. Literally tens of billions of pounds been spent removing things from the private sector and bringing them back into the public sector. Just because people don't talk about it, don't say it's not happening. You've also got, putting public services into like local areas, like they're bringing the Best Start Centres or the Sure Start Centre. They were always called Best Start Centres in Scotland. I think that's maybe why they're picking the name. But the Sure Start Centre's coming back and expanded as well. All of these things, the Renters' Rights Bill, all of this stuff, the Tories hate it.
Yes.
The reason why the Tory media are absolutely doing their nuts is they hate what Starmer is doing. He is the furthest thing from a Tory. They absolutely hate it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be, because there's quite a lot in the Tory media do not want Nigel Farage to be leader.
But this is the worry now is Labour are not putting up any kind of defence that is going to be effective against refuck, and I just see them doing exactly what Joe Biden did. When his term as president, where he tried to make peace and tried to be nice to the Republicans, and what he didn't understand is the Republicans wanted him dead. They wanted everyone who voted for him dead, and he was trying to it's like trying to make peace with a psychopath. Like, don't even bother trying. They need to come out all guns blazing against refuck. Team up with the other parties like Lib Dems, the Greens, in a unison of condemnation and explaining to people exactly what a refuck government would look like. Because
So,
people hate Trump in this country, and the more you link refuck to Trump, the less well
so
they do in the polls.
Labour are doing that already, and
Really?
it's not getting through.
Used
Yes,
to
and
be.
you're saying really because they're doing it on a daily basis, and
How have I
yet
not noticed?
you don't,
Have I not been paying
because they're
attention?
not very good at it. Well, I know, but you should. But nonetheless, they're not very good at it. That's the whole point. So it's all right saying Labour should do this. But the other thing is there's huge differences between us and Biden. The worrying similarity is what did for Biden was ultimately inflation. People didn't think to themselves, okay, prices have gone up, but has my pay gone up to match?
The thing that did in Biden, again, it wasn't policy. It was the fact that he should have had Trump put on trial immediately after insurrection.
But we can't do that with Nigel
he should have been
Farage.
put in a box and buried in the desert. That's what he should have done. And he didn't do that because he didn't have the balls to do it. He was so fucking timid. And now we've got Trump. Got a fascist in terms of, as leader of America.
In terms of like the issues that determined the election, there are other multiple differences. The first of which is, again, you are doing what everyone's doing. And, so Chris there, who thinks caps lock, by the way, makes things more prominent, actually just makes it harder to read, mate. As, again, just saying, oh, but this isn't happening now, therefore it's not improving people's lives at present. We haven't got an election now either. We haven't got an election now. So if you accept that these things will make people's lives better, then all it has to do is be noticeable for the election. Now, I'm not saying that communication is not important. I constantly go on about how important it is. I continue to go on about how important it is. But nonetheless, there is meat behind it all. We have seen recent polling showing vast numbers of Reform UK supporters say they will absolutely vote Labour. They don't care about any of these issues you bring up. They absolutely vote Labour if they deal with improvements to the NHS and the cost of living crisis.
I think you overestimate how logical people are.
No, this is from polling. People are saying this right now.
Because
this is what they're saying.
Biden did improve things for Americans.
No. Americans did not say, you will not show me any polling that says we will vote for Biden if he does this, right? Because what they wanted him to do was lower gas prices and egg prices, and he didn't do that, and he didn't promise to do it, and neither did Harris, right? If she'd have promised to do that, then
even if she hadn't done it,
probably would have won.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, this is the thing. This is what the problem, the fundamental problem with Starmer and his party at the moment is the lack of razzle dazzle, if you want to call it that, the lack of emotional connection with the electorate. It is like we're being ruled by ChatGPT. That's how it feels. You know, when you put something inside and you get this, like, it's always the same response. Do you know what I mean? It always, to just change the words around in the sentence. It just feels like artificial. It feels uncanny valley. And I think that they are in real trouble unless they steer the ship in a, but again, I'm not saying to a 180. I'm just...
But go back to what you've just said, right? What you've just said. You have just said the problem was that Biden didn't address the things people want him to. But I've also just told you that polling shows that Labour are addressing the things they want them to do in this country. They have said they want the NHS to be better. The Labour are going to make it better, and noticeably better. Because I'll tell you something. Yes, people will notice if waiting times are significantly lower, because they already. I know some Reform UK. I live in Gammon country, right? I know some, and even they are giving Labour credit for the fact that they are now finding it easier to get appointments. But that's just one thing. As soon as you've got health centres popping up in your local community, in the most deprived areas, in the key battlegrounds, people can't not notice that. Because the thing about a waiting list is you can only notice it improving if you need it on a regular basis, because if you only ever need an appointment once every 5 years or something, you don't know whether the waiting time's good or not compared with recent times. So you need someone who either constantly has medical issues or knows people who do and talks about it. Whereas a community centre setting up near your street, that's noticeable. That is a big change. But the other thing about the cost of living, now the cost of living can come down to a number of things, but I was doing in my own stream earlier today. At the moment, inflation is being driven by two things: food prices and energy prices. So Labour have just announced today their first plan for knocking off a big chunk of people's energy bills just next year. Not everyone's, I hasten to add.
What's the plan?
So we'd already heard about this before, but so at the moment, particularly in Reform UK councils like Lincolnshire next door to me, and it'll be this one before long, they're trying to block net zero investment. So they're trying to block our expansion of clean energy, right? Now, yes, central government can ram these plans through if they really need to, but that will take time. So Reform UK are trying to get public opinion to block these developments. So Labour, in order to get them to agree to them, are going, well, I'll tell you what, if you live near a pylon, you can have 250 quid a year off your energy bill. And that can be starting from next year.
I'll have a pylon in my back garden for that. That's great.
Well,
they're a bit noisy though. They do.
It does. Now there are a couple of qualifiers. It does say the details need to still come out. They phrased it as £2,500 over 10 years, and up to £250 a year. So I don't know whether that up to means that the idea is it starts off a bit lower next year and ramps up, or do they mean they're going to massage it according to different areas depending on how much NIMBYism there is there? If you're big on the NIMBYism, you might get a bigger chunk off or something. But either way, it's a significant chunk off energy bills just for living in it. And they can say to these people, oh, well, we need to build these pylons, right? Oh, we don't like the pylons. Oh, that's a shame, because if we built a pylon there, you could have 250 quid off your energy bill. So that's the idea there. Now, they'll need it in, that won't be the key Labour reform battlegrounds in most cases. So they will need some other schemes as well. I did quite like the zonal pricing scheme, but Downing Street knocked that on the head. They probably had good reason, but it's a shame.
I like that as well.
But they'll have, again, if they can reduce energy bills significantly from enough people, even if it's not completely universal, if it's like, in different parts of the country according to different criteria, that will reduce the overall inflation figure because energy is a big part of it, as well as if they can really get it in areas that are key for votes. That'll be, that's quite big for a lot of people on low income.
Well, let's have a look at Starmer's. I know this came out before COVID, so it was another world. This is before the invasion of Ukraine. This is before Trussonomics. But here is 10 things that he promised. So economic justice, increase income tax for the top 5% of earners. Obviously, that's not in the manifesto, and it's not going to happen. Reverse the Tories' cuts to corporation tax, which they have gone some way to do. But
to be fair, the Tories did that themselves to an extent, so they didn't have to.
But and clamp down on tax avoidance, particularly of large corporations.
They are doing that.
And then social justice, abolish universal credit, and end the Tories' cruel sanctions regime. Now, how does that marry up with their plan to get $5 billion out of, prize $5 billion away from disabled people?
But that's, you're now introducing another policy into it. Those actual policy, the sanctions regime, they knocked it on the head straight away. So they have actually done that. Okay. You're now adding another policy. Now, I still agree it was a bad policy. And the other thing to note is, Labour as a whole have sort of said, we're not happy with this.
Well, because they knocked it back, didn't they? So, it's kind of moot now.
Again,
but bad leadership that it went to a bloody vote in Parliament, and then they had to pull it and change the name of the bloody bill at the last minute. Come on.
The problem with that was that because they were doing it very clearly and pretty openly as a cost-cutting measure, not an efficiency measure. What they could have done, I have people all the time telling me about people who have PIP who really don't need it. Now, not as many as they were trying to take it off. But if they'd have gone down the route of, because the whole point of PIP, it's not like, oh, you clearly have a disability, so you should have it. It's there to pay for something that allows you to manage that disability. So if in theory you have a disability where actually the money can't do anything for you, then, if they want to make that
I think money can always do stuff for us.
No, because there's certain things that you can't do. You can't, it's like, what do you do with it?
Well, I mean,
If it
hearing
doesn't-
aids, for an example. If you need
Yeah,
good
yeah.
hearing
But
aids that you can actually do a job with, not the shit ones you
yeah,
get on the NHS, you don't get a subsidy towards it. It's literally, you can get the NHS ones, which are just basically radios that you put in your ears. If you want proper ones that actually work for your prescription,
from Specsavers.
you don't get money towards it. You don't get X amount. They don't match fund it. I mean, they match fund the lacrosse stadiums for Eton and Harrow. We match fund the cost of that as taxpayers, but for deaf people, no, we don't match fund the cost of
No,
their hearing aids. Chrissy, thank you very much for the super chat. Before Phil starts again, why should taxpayers' money be used to appease a bunch of NIMBYs who were awkward for the sake of it? Didn't happen during the post-war years. Yeah, well, we're not.
well,
the
it's
country
also
we
reducing
once
people's
were.
energy bills. Like, at the end of the day, it's reducing people. You know, you say, why are we using taxpayers' money? Eventually we won't, because energy bills will naturally come down. I cannot say it often enough. We get a load of our energy right now from gas-powered stations. That costs £75 per megawatt hour, right? From solar and wind, it's about £40, and the price is going down. So the forecast over the price of producing electricity from gas doesn't go down, because we've been developing the technology to burn things and turn it into electricity for a long time. We've basically cracked it. The emergent technology is in particularly solar. So the cost of solar at the moment is already way lower than it is for producing it from gas. And it's forecast over the next 10, 20 years to get
Come
lower
down even
still.
more. It's going to be pennies.
So
it's going to be pennies.
if you can do what Ed Miliband is trying to do and get 95% of our energy instead of 40, 50% max, half of our energy, 95% of our energy from these sort of sources, these clean sources, the bills come down at that. I can't say overnight, because obviously they're going to be phased in, but the bills will have come down. So this, although it's going to have an injection of cash to begin with, because we're having to stump the money up before we get the savings are coming.
Yeah.
So everyone will have lower energy bills at some point.
We've got a question from Amy Walker, which has actually been answered by Kirsty, but asking why the ECHR has already stated their transposition in 2004. Why are Labour contradicting them? And Kirsty said, yes, the ECHR made the transposition clear in 2002. The 2004 Gender Recognition Act addressed this. Now it has been rendered nearly worthless. Address this issue, please. Yes, I want Labour to address this issue. I mean, we can talk about it, but we're completely on your side. I don't know for the life of me why the fuck Labour are doing this.
I do,
madness,
but they're still getting it wrong. I know exactly why they're doing it, but it's still, again, it's because the polling says that this, and this is why I have to take issue when you can talk about policy being bad, or you can talk about optics being bad. The optics is not bad for this, because the vast majority of people agree with this position, but they don't agree with it strongly enough to vote.
When you say the vast majority of people,
I mean the vast
can we say the vast
majority
majority of Labour voters?
No, the vast majority of people.
I mean,
We know that from polling.
Yeah, and what did we learn from the Tories trying to emulate refuck? They got their asses handed to them if Labour did the same thing.
No, that was a completely different thing. In this particular case, the reason why Labour shouldn't do it is because what they're doing is they're looking at the polling and going, okay, well, a lot of people are aligned with this. We want to align with the people. But what they should be doing is going, but it has very low saliency.
I think
for those people who agree with it. That's the problem. They're not focusing on saliency.
I think they're looking at a printout of the polling. And someone says, what do you make of this? And he goes, a brooch, a hat, a dinosaur.
No,
David,
that's not the problem. They should be doing that. They shouldn't be acting on gut instinct. The problem is that no one who's analysing that printout for them has said, we need to test salience on this.
I guarantee that Boris Johnson and Donald Trump were never, ever swayed by an opinion poll about anything. They just charged ahead doing what they wanted to do.
You can't guarantee it, because they're both openly swayed by opinion polls all the time.
David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. It's very kind. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum addresses the nation each morning, taking questions and speaking directly to the electorate. Starmer should try. Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yes, I said that for a long time
before, haven't we? Yeah. And Tim Ballum, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. A large part of the problem is transporting wind and solar to where it's needed. Wind turbines in the southwest are turned off, and gas use in the southeast.
No, that's not a big problem. Honestly, it's not. Because you can also more easily build those everywhere. An island in Ireland.
That is
Don't
true.
build it in the way of ships. Don't build them around Dover. Dominic Raab would have done that. But by and large, there's lots of places we can put solar, particularly, but there's also wind.
But when we're talking about transportation of that energy, it's not like we have to put it in a truck and drive it.
And,
This
yeah,
is
and the
stuff
other
that
thing
actually
is,
gets transmitted at the speed of light. But we don't have the pylons in place to take these mega
exactly.
loads. Hence, the need to build more pylons, which is something that is being objected to by, of all people, the freaking Green Party. And you're like, of all the parties that should really be all for this green revolution, you'd think it was the Green Party, but it turns out they're a little bit more conservative than they like to let on. Tinkanator, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. It's very kind of you. Labour may be more responsible and competent governments, but they react defensively and remain in denial rather than reflecting on their past and embracing change. This is fatal in modern politics. And I agree. I absolutely agree. And thanks for your support. Can we talk a little bit more about Keir Starmer's pledges, like what he's done?
Can I first of all just point out
go on.
that electricity does not travel at the speed of light?
Yes, okay, Mr.
And
Physicist.
also this idea of transporting it, because even under the old systems of producing, which we're still stuck with, producing energy from fossil fuels, the production was always in the north and the consumption in the south. So we've always transported electricity massive distances from where it was produced.
Can I just ask, is electricity instantaneous? Like if you had a massive loop that went round a light bulb, but that was on the moon, you had a wire going to it and you flick the switch on Earth, would it come on straight away?
No, not at all. It's at most, it travels about 20 times slower than the speed of light. So it's fairly nippy by human standards. We would get very sick if we were to travel at 5% of the speed of light, but nonetheless, it is not the speed of light.
I'm sure I've seen a YouTube video where they proved that it was instantaneous, Phil, because the electric field was already there.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know. It was above my pay grade. Ivan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Starmer absolutely does not need to go, but McSweeney and Kendall do. There you go. That's from Ivan. Thank you very much for the super chat. And rating rumours, £5 super chat. You can't fix a broken country when the electorate is broken too. Not enough critical thinking. Far too many stupid reactionary sheep. Well, rating rumours. Sorry, I take issue with that, and thank you for the super chat. But I do take issue with that idea because here's the thing: it is a lot easier to change the trajectory of a handful of politicians rather than to change the set life values of the majority of people in the UK. If you're Rupert Murdoch, you can do that. If you got his power, you got his reach, you could slam people over the head every day about how bad trans people are and how bad immigrants are. Yeah, of course, you can change the public opinions, how bad the EU is. But for the rest of us, just don't have that power. And go try and tell someone that you know that they're wrong. They'll chase you up a tree and set fire to it. That's just one person that you know personally. Never mind the stranger on the front door.
If you want to change their mind, you've got to actually focus on the facts. And making equally emotive statements doesn't do that. Like let's say you manage to get a hearing with someone sitting in Downing Street, and you said to them something that they knew was not based in fact, you wouldn't convince them. You wouldn't convince them.
Maybe I don't know, right? I mean, can we just talk about?
I do. You've got to actually. You've got to start from what has made them this. You've got to begin from where if you want to persuade someone of anything, you've got to start from their position.
Yeah.
Nigel Farage does this all the time. You've got to start from their position. What has led to them thinking this way? And then you have to move from there to what you think is the correct position.
Yep.
You cannot move from your own position.
Yep, I agree. And meeting people in the middle. This is why we often talk about a policy which can be sold to the left and sold to the right. You can do it. But unfortunately, the way politics are at the moment, I'm not in a mood for bipartisanship. I think Labour need to be a lot more strong, a lot more ballsy in what they want to do and what they want to achieve. Or they're either going to do a half-assed version, or they'll achieve things at the moment, which will all be swept away in 5 years' time when we've got that dickhead. What's his name? Farage in number 10. It was Veritasium, whatever they're called. No, that's a truth serum, isn't it? Who did that video about the speed of electricity? Yes, that's the one I was thinking of. But I don't think I watched the whole thing. So, so let's talk about economic justice, social justice. These are the things that Keir Starmer pledged. Climate justice, putting the Green New Deal at the heart of everything they do. I'm going to give him a win on that because he has actually done that.
Have you found one yet that he hasn't done?
Well, here's the thing. Review all UK arms sales and make us a force for international peace and justice. Now, I know that some arms sales have been reviewed, and in fact, some sales to Israel, in cases where they thought that they might be used to commit genocide,
the IDF,
that they have been suspended. But there's other ones that are part of a bigger production set up across other countries that we haven't pulled out of because it would have disrupted our...
So read the specific pledge out again for me, just so I get the wording. I've not got it in front of me.
It says no more illegal wars, introduce a Prevention of Military Intervention Act and put human rights at the heart of foreign policy. Review all UK arms sales and make us a force for international peace and justice.
So, I mean,
what score would you give for that?
In terms of, so for example, although some people just want Israel to have no weapons even to defend their own civilian populations, and they don't care if the removal of F-35 parts also, for example, prevents us protecting ourselves against Russia because they're also on Russia's side, right? So that's the issue there. But they've done that. They've actually done that. We're not selling arms to anyone who's using them against civilian populations maliciously.
So we're not selling arms to Saudi Arabia anymore. That's good.
Are they at the moment using them?
No, they were bombing the Yemenis quite recently. And, they did roll a tank into Bahrain in 2011 in case, they got ideas above their station.
Power then. I seem to remember Labour weren't in power then. And certainly Starmer wasn't.
I remember having a drink with a guy in Bahrain who was wearing the full dish dash. So where are you from? I said Saudi Arabia.
If, for example, we were to stop allowing anyone to have arms that has ever used them to commit crimes against humanity, we'd have to not allow ourselves to have any.
Yes. Hang on, I was telling me a story about the guy I met in Bahrain in the bar, and he was wearing a full dish dash. And I said, where are you from? He said, Saudi Arabia. I said, how come you're having a drink? Because he was drinking some Johnny Walker. And he said, this is Bahrain. This is not Saudi Arabia, this is Bahrain. Allah cannot see Bahrain. So that's what they should have on the sign. As you're driving across the causeway, it should say, Bahrain, Allah's blind spot.
Yeah, they should.
It's gambling and titty bars and alcohol everywhere.
Yeah, it's a bit. I think that's a bit rude. I mean, when a colleague of mine years ago was suggesting I go to the Middle East to teach because they were offering and I was single, so they're offering big salaries, tax free, and I would have just been homesick, but I wouldn't have drunk there.
No,
as far as I'm concerned, it's not it's a perfectly sensible, and I know it's mostly a religious law, but it is also, alcohol is bad for you. So I would have just been teetotal while I was there.
We had another super chat come in from Tinkanator. Thank you so much, Tinkanator. That's very kind of you. It's not that the people at large are stupid. It's more that they don't have the time. Yes. Yes, Tinkanator. Energy to think and reflect on politics more deeply, awash in social and economic forces driving democratic decline. Yep, couldn't agree more. Absolutely 100% Tinkanator. Dot 4x4 says, sounds like a Veritasium video that was debunked. Consider it this way. You have a tube full of marbles here from here to Jupiter, and you put another marble in your end. Does that travel at the speed of light? Does it travel faster? Is it instantaneous? It's an interesting thought experiment. Anyway, we won't get into that right now because we've got politics to talk about. And I've got another couple of super chats to go. Tinkanator, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. There are 4 modes of democratic decline that needs to be addressed. Citizen alienation.
There's no S.
Yeah, thanks. It's because the next one was social atomization. Easy for you to say, Tinkanator, but thank you very much for Super Chat. Social media, algorithmic filtering, and hyper-identity politics, exclusionary discourse. I agree. Those are issues that really need to be looked at right now, not just in this country, but countries around the world. Ivan, thank you very much.
I had a problem. today.
Go on.
When I was doing my video on this really weird threat Israel have threatened Starmer, and it's the maddest threat I've ever heard in my life. And I put in the script, I described Netanyahu as megalomaniacal.
Yeah.
It's not okay, it's got a few syllables in it, but it's fine. Could not say it on the camera.
No.
And I had to just change it to mad. And and then afterwards, I just say it to myself, megalomaniacal. I can say it now. Why couldn't I say it then?
Yeah. I honestly, psychopathy. I was doing a video about J.K. Rowling, and I used the word psychopathy. I did about fucking 10 takes because I just could not say that word properly. Every time it came up on the auto cue, I was like, Anyway, Ivan, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. I can think of things that haven't been done. The Mental Health Act is still hasn't been overhauled, and there's still silence on banning conversion therapy, which is true. And I was going to get to that because that's something else that he said in his list of things. So we've got economic justice, social justice, climate justice, promote peace and human rights, common ownership, public services should be in public hands, not making profits to shareholders. Support common ownership of rail, they've done that. Mail, nope. Energy, Great British Energy, arguably. And water, it's on the list. Water's on the list. And end outsourcing of the NHS, whereas Wes Streeting has actually expanded.
No, he hasn't. No, he's reversed it.
Has he not? I thought.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, that's the whole point of getting rid of NHS England. That is literally bringing it all back under the...
Let me do my animation, Phil. There you go. I was wrong, and I accept responsibility.
Where people are talking about the use of private care at the moment, that is literally, and they keep saying it, they keep saying it to the blue in the face, people won't say no for an editor. It's just to get rid of the backlog.
Right.
No one wants to use, no one sensible wants private hospitals delivering surgeries for the NHS, and you know why?
Yeah.
Not just because of the cost, because people are more likely to die. They don't have emergency rooms. An NHS hospital has ICUs. You don't have those in private clinics. So if the surgery goes well, and you obviously hope it does, and that's why they have to check for certain things, and they can't always give surgeries to people if it's too risky. But if the risk seems fine, you're going ahead with it, it's all brilliant, no problem. But if not, if you will undergo cardiac arrest, they've got to call 999 to get you to an NHS hospital to deal with it. So it's not even just cost. This is literally to get the waiting list down, because the waiting lists are kryptonite to a government. Okay, so it's weird that the Tories never saw that.
Some of that. Okay, here we go. Defend migrants' rights. I think this is one of the bits that he's not been very good on. Full voting rights for EU nationals. Apparently that's gone out the window. Defend free movement as we leave the EU. That's gone out the window completely. Free movement has been taken. That right has been taken from all of us in the UK who don't have an Irish passport. An immigration system based on compassion and dignity.
I would say that's the one of the 10 that he hasn't actually followed through.
End indefinite detention and call for the closure of centres such as Yols Wood. And then we've got strengthen workers' rights. So I guess you're gonna lambast me now with the ones that he's done. So
of the 10, there's only that one on migrants' rights that's really been...
Oh, no, there's more. Okay, so strengthen workers' rights, that's number 7. We'll give that as a given, right? 8, radical devolution of power, wealth and opportunity. Push power, wealth and opportunity away from Whitehall, a federal system to devolve powers, including through regional investment banks and control over regional industrial strategy. Abolish the House of Lords, which isn't going to happen. Replace it with
an manifesto.
Elected chamber.
It's in the manifesto.
It's in the manifesto.
Yeah. It's not for this parliament, but that's because all the resistance, that is something Starmer genuinely wants. A lot of the resistance from that is within Labour, because the House of Lords is brilliant for corruption.
Yeah. Replace it with an elected chamber or regions and nations. That should be of the typo, Phil. They've done a typo.
Yes. Yeah.
That's really shoddy. There you go. That should have been the hint that his comms were all out of whack to get started. Okay, here's the next one, right? Equality. Pull down obstacles that limit opportunities and talent. So they haven't closed down every single private school in the country yet, so I'm not going to give them a pass on that.
You can't be that maximalist about it.
Yes, you can. And then we are the party of the Equal Pay Act, Sure Start, BAME representation, and, get this, Phil, abolition of Section 28. Yeah. We must build on that for the new decade. And they brought in a new Section 28 where you're not allowed to talk about trans people in schools.
Or allowed to go for a piss.
Yeah, so Section 28
but nonetheless, again, the individual details within them were not, like, in terms of when you read it, I've now got it up there because I knew this one. When you read it, they've got these 10 pledges. Those are the 10 pledges. The individual elements of them, if some of them get changed, they are not the pledges, they're just examples, right?
Yeah.
The pledges were the numbered pledges. And even that weren't really, even though Starmer himself says, yes, those are my pledges. If you actually read it, the pledges were twofold. And it was to work tirelessly to get Labour into power, which he sort of did, so that we can advance the interests of the people or party was created to serve.
Yeah, so that was number 10 in his list, effective opposition to the Tories. No, on his list of 10, number 10 is effective opposition to the Tories. And I will give him that. Give him that. But not effective opposition to refuck.
To be fair, they didn't really exist at the time.
Yes, true. But like refuck are like Tory plus, aren't they? They're like
they are
Tory
very much
Kool-Aid.
Tory plus. Yeah.
Yes.
They are the Tories without. If you removed what's left of their conscience, yes, that's the Tories.
So like the Tories are like the cult in Midsummer, the movie, whereas refuck are more like the cult in Jonestown, as in the massacre. JKR, someone's saying that we should refer to her as the mouldy one, mold.
She's created a dilemma for me at the moment. I don't believe in dilemmas mostly. You know what my dilemma is. So I don't really, but when people say they have a dilemma, most of the time they're just lying. Because in most like dilemmas, really it's a case of there's this thing I'd like to do, but it's not the right decision. And then there's this thing that's the right decision, but I don't want to do it. And they think that's a dilemma. It's not a dilemma. You just don't want to do the right thing. Whereas there are sometimes genuine dilemmas. And the only thing I ever give Shakespeare the nod on is he did create a genuine dilemma in Hamlet. It's the only worthwhile thing he ever wrote, that scribbler. But anyway, she's created
blasphemy.
It's on the issue. I used to show an office with English teachers. I used to piss them off all the time.
You frustration.
I used to send their blood pressure through the roof every time I slate Shakespeare.
Bolting hunch of beastliness.
It's on the issue of boycotts. Now, I don't boycott very much, but you know how you have a situation where, so sometimes, and obviously you have to have the consumer power to do it. Not everyone can afford to boycott everyone, so I don't make a big deal out of it. I boycott, for example, Wetherspoons. I just would refuse to go into Wetherspoons. And there's a few other, I don't boycott a lot, but just a few that just beyond the pale. So sometimes you'll boycott a company if it's behaving politically or just does something you really can't get on board with. But then sometimes there's a company that you don't use, but it takes a principled stance that aligns with you. So you go, oh, well, I'm going to now buy some of their stuff instead, right? So you can do the opposite way around. You can do, what's anti-boycotting? There must be a word for anti-boycotting. But anyway, the opposite.
Would that just be buying stuff from the place?
But there must be a word. If there's boycott, there must be
patronising.
An antonym. There must be an antonym. Go on, someone look it up. What's the antonym for boycott? But anyway,
joining the cult. Maybe. Indoctrination.
Initiation. So J.K. Rowling has created a problem for me with regards to this, because I had been boycotting Marks and Spencer's and Ocado because of their advertising on GB News, right? But now J.K. Rowling wants Marks and Spencer's boycotted because apparently, so I don't know, I didn't read it in detail. Are they selling bras to trans people or something?
No. There was a department store, there was an M&S, and there was a turfy woman and her daughter, and they were in the women's lingerie section, and a tall woman, we don't know if they were trans, a tall woman came over and said, do you need any help? And this woman freaked out and said, no, this person who I presume is trans shouldn't be anywhere near the underwear section. Because, yeah.
That's even more ridiculous.
And then J.K. Rowling jumped on. Yeah, but M&S have apologised. And I boycotted M&S years ago because their clothes are shit. They're just boring.
Okay.
They don't sell stuff like this. They don't sell these hats.
So what have M&S done then?
So they've apologised.
Are you going to remove... But for what? Who have they apologised to?
The woman, for the distress that they caused her. This turfy woman who freaked out.
My dilemma's gone.
She saw someone who she presumed... Because they were tall. They were like 6'1", and they were like, oh, 6'1", we can't be that tall.
So... I was imagining they must have, because I only saw a quick headline. I was imagining they were like marketing bras to trans women or something.
No.
This is ridiculous.
This is one shop with one mad woman in there who went, like in the public area where anyone could be, and somebody who works in the shop went up to them and went, do you need any help with anything? And they went, ah! You know, like it was a response. It was like Ace Ventura or something.
So hold on. So now what I'm getting from this, you're going to have to explain this further. So now what I'm getting from this is a mad transphobe was approached by a woman of birth gender unknown.
Yes.
And she freaked out. M&S have effectively humiliated their own member of staff by apologising for their very existence in their store.
They apologise.
And J.K. Rowling's still not happy. She still wants to boycott them.
Yes, because she doesn't want trans people at all. It wasn't like it was a woman's only space. It wasn't like it was the bra fitting thing.
I've go through them. You have to go through those to get to the men's socks.
Yeah.
The socks are nice. They're wool socks.
Brienne of Tarth. Yeah, probably look like Brienne of Tarth, who is a cisgender woman. But even if she was trans, like, what the hell? Like, this is the world that we have created now in this country. And Labour have not helped with that. Ivan, thank you so much for the £20 super chat. NHS mental health services are still not fit for purpose, particularly for autistic patients. I have to go private for my mental health treatment and care. P.S. I'm not an important voter, but I'm a committed lady party. Fuck me. It's been a long day. Labour Party member.
I think that could be the new name. Maybe we could have a lady party.
I'm still a Labour Party member. I'm hanging on. You know, because I want to be part of whatever comes next. Like, I want to try in my own little way to, you know, I speak a lot with my own MP here, Mary Foy, who's brilliant, and she's always been, when the government hasn't really deserved her vote, she hasn't necessarily given it to them, especially on terms like when they tried to go after the $5 billion that the disabled people were just, you know, wasting. I think someone else pulled Phil up on the chat earlier saying, you can't say that disabled people are wasting. Oh, they don't need money. Being disabled is fucking expensive. Being disabled is surprisingly expensive.
But what I was trying to say is, if they could identify some people with a disability that money doesn't ease, then they might have made more of an argument. But their problem was, instead of what they weren't like, if you're going to look at some payments that go to people and thinking, does everyone really need it? Like the winter fuel allowance. So very wealthy pensioners don't need it. So what they've done with it now works, right? That's fine. No one can argue that the people who really need it, they're getting it now. If they'd have done the same thing with PIP payments, if they'd have said, we think there are some people who cannot, even though they may have a genuine disability, the money cannot possibly help them access any, whether work or just their domestic life. But that's not what they did. They came at it from the angle of, we want to save money. What's the path of least resistance?
Yeah, disabled people. I mean, for God's sake. Anyway, look, listen, I've got to do my animation again, saying I was wrong. I was wrong, and I accept responsibility because I misread Ivan's super chat. I'm so sorry, Ivan. Ivan actually said, P.S. I'm not an impatient voter. I'm a committed Labour Party member. Sorry, my friend. I misread that. In all the excitement. It's been a long day. Give me a break.
People are impatient these days. People are very impatient. This is what's causing the problem. But
quite rightly. I mean, you know, we've been told that things should be getting better. It's 2025. Where's my flying car? Where's my silver jumpsuit?
We weren't. To be fair, Labour didn't promise that things would get better straight away.
I was promised all my life that things would get better in the future.
Not by Labour.
By Plan 9 from outer
yeah.
space, they told me things would get better in the future.
Yeah, that wasn't a documentary, mate.
But people would have argued it was going to get really bad.
Tomorrow's World, if you're going to have a pop at Tomorrow's World, because they promised these things, and that was a documentary, sort of.
Well, Tomorrow's World was right about a lot of things. I remember them getting very excited about CDs.
Yeah, but they got excited about literally everything. They literally got excited about everything, including that stupid bed where the telly pops out the front of it, as if anyone would want that.
They often had this guy on who had invented a perpetual motion machine. They had that on Tomorrow's World, like on 3 separate occasions. This lunatic in his garden shed. He was like, "Oh yeah, maybe so perpetual motion machine," violating the laws of physics.
The best one I ever saw with that was, I think it might have been, it was in the 1960s. It's a clip you can see, and it's like Blue Peter. I don't know whether it was Blue Peter, but something like that. No, it wouldn't have been Blue Peter. It would have been something. But anyway, so they had this fella on who reckoned he could jump on eggs and not break them. And this is the problem of getting people into. This is what happened this is television in the 1960s in Britain. And so they set out these 2 eggs on egg cups on the floor. You can find this clip. Man jumps on egg cups without breaking them. And this guy, right, is in his kit, his PE kit, old fella, and he does this weird jump over them. And the presenter's looking at him and going, "What?" And they say, "Are you sure you jumped on that?" "Oh yeah, that's definitely been jumped on." It's like, how can you tell? Because he just basically jumped over these eggs and then claimed. And the thing is, the problem with that, and even the presenters, like, if you did it all properly and went, right, we've got this loony, right, we need to fill a few minutes. He's not really going to jump on the eggs, but go with it. So they were clearly expecting him to actually jump on eggs and not break them somehow. So they were completely befuddled and didn't know what to say to this man. But it's like, you're mental, mate. But that's what television was like then. You could see all sorts of mad shit because they didn't know what they were just still finding their way, I think.
There was a really wonderful clip. Hannah Fry, who's brilliant. If you don't follow her already, she's just fucking awesome. She's a ginge. She's part of my clan. Scientist on TV. And she had a clip of Arthur C. Clarke from the 1950s. And it was pretty like the first half of the clip is him predicting that in 50 years' time, there'll be ways of communicating so people can just work on a beach in Tahiti as much as you can work in an office in London. And he's predicting basically the internet. He's predicting smartphones. He's predicting all this video conferencing. And it's like, wow, that man, he really did see the future. And then he said, and obviously they would have the servant problem of who's going to be working as doing like the servant thing. So what we'll have to do is get a bunch of chimpanzees and we'll have to train them to be butlers. And it was like part of the same broadcast. It was like predicting the internet. And then immediately afterwards, monkey butlers. Which is fabulous. Please follow Hannah Fry. She's fucking great. But yes, I think
so. What you could say about that, we can conclude about that, is Arthur C. Clarke was a really good futurologist. He was very good at predicting future technology, but not future social issues.
Maybe.
He wasn't good on sociology.
Yeah, maybe. But he was the guy who put the proposition together for geostationary satellites. He did the mathematics for them. Very clever man. Oh, talking of clever people, Ivan, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Phil, I should have not be in a position to have to go private. Trying to have some compassion and empathy and putting yourself in other people's shoes instead of being so heartless and matter of fact.
I'm not being heartless. I'm just trying to explain it what it is.
You are a bit matter of fact though, Phil, aren't you?
I'm very matter of fact, but that's how you need to be if you want to actually change anything. What could Labour have done last year? I think that's just a Yorkshire thing. What could everyone have done? What could Labour have done last year to give everyone adequate mental health provision this year? Nothing.
But they don't seem to be moving on it. Like,
they haven't been moving on as quickly as others because, again, like, we know the situation right now. Rachel Reeves has got to find more tens of billions of quid. Like, what they've done is they've said, right, these are our top priorities. We're going to fund these things first. In actual fact, they have been moving on mental health provision. That's what initial funding has gone for that, but it won't help Ivan because it's been young people are being prioritised for it first.
Yeah.
But something like this you cannot do overnight.
But
and you have to be.
They're not discussing it, Phil, and that's
No.
what. And again, putting the policy to one side for a moment, just on the whole public communication, just being able to communicate with their voters, communicate with the public at large. They are bloody awful at it, and they don't seem to be showing any signs of improving anytime soon.
No,
and they should
don't.
be for the stuff that they're going to do in a few years' time. Give people the feeling of security that it is coming. Oh, by the way, listen, we really need to do something about the mental health crisis. We're working on it now. We're launching a consultation. We're doing this. We're doing that. But it's just silence at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's just not mental health. It's other things as well with Labour.
It's not. It's just very, very quiet. I see it all the time because I go looking for it. They don't get it out to the public.
Yeah.
No, it's the same thing. So you're saying it as if they're not trying. They are trying. They're just shit at it, and they'll be just as shit at it with another leader because it's the same communications team.
Well, just click approve 92. Thank you. Is saying they could have not actively made people's mental health worse. Just an idea.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they totally have done
in terms
that.
of the rhetoric, yes. Yeah. In terms of the rhetoric, they certainly, because they have caused people anguish with the way they phrase things.
Disabled people, trans people, people who,
lots of people,
autism,
ordinary people, anyone on low incomes.
Yeah.
Because last year,
anxiety.
Instead of what they should have done is said, and they've not done themselves any favours either, because consumer confidence has suffered. Because instead of going, right, that's it, we're going to do all this stuff now, blah, 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 we're going to bang, 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 getting everyone really hopeful. They instead said, oh, do you know what, the economy is even more frigged than we thought it was. Oh, Jesus Christ. And they were given the impression, they weren't saying it, but they were given the impression, don't even expect it to be better by the next election. We're going to need even longer. So that was self-defeating. That would have caused a lot of people unnecessary anguish, and it caused low consumer confidence, which it was picking up a bit, and now seems to be in decline a bit. So
they're not doing themselves any favours. They're not doing the economy any favours by being a bit shit at this part of it. Again, policies aside, just being able to communicate and and MZ said
communication is part of. You change Starmer for someone else, it's the same communication department. It's the same people.
Yeah,
and you can't say, well, they could get rid of the top ones. They could, but who for? Who? Because now you've got to try and identify this holy grail of someone who's really good at organising, someone who is really good at oratory, but at the same time not in a divisive way. They sort of broadly appeal, and someone who themselves, because literally almost every MP in Parliament is shit at communication. So you need someone who is good at identifying someone who's not shit at communications, which is the really trick question.
Hannah Fry.
Because there are very few MPs. I don't think they're going to hire you for your advice, though. That's the problem, even if you're right. Are there any MPs apart from Nigel Farage who know how to communicate? Yeah. Are any? Because I look at some who are trying, like Liam Byrne, to be fair, tries. He's does stuff on you. I follow him. He tries, but it's very, and some stuff he puts out does well. It's very hit and miss because he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Well, things could be definitely improved. I'm still a little bit on the fence about whether he needs to go or not. I'm not in the camp of thinking that no, definitely he needs to stay the course now. There is someone waiting in the wings, and that they can take the leadership of the party in a new
If there
direction.
was, he would never have been leader in the first place. We knew from the start. It was factored in. It was priced in. He's shit at talking to people.
He really is.
Always evident. That was always evident.
Yeah. Even when he's talking about somebody he's passionate about, like football, he doesn't sound like a normal person talking about football. Anyway, we're going to leave it there.
I could make him sound good, but he would never appear on my show.
I've got to go.
I would have to ask him questions.
I've got an interview to do about my travels around the world. So I'm going to have to go. But yeah, someone was saying about the monkeys from the new Superman film. There's a pocket universe, and in it there's all these monkeys on typewriters, and they're just putting outrage comments on the internet, and it's just thousands of monkeys just typing away. I thought it was a good joke.
Sort of is.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Arthur C. Clarke didn't predict Russian bots, did he? Don't need the monkeys.
No. Mean Shock says, try being told an incurable illness can be cured by the job centre on advice from the government. Yeah, that's what the Tories were famous for, and I don't want Labour going down that same route. David Smith says, I like Clive Lewis. I like Clive Lewis as well. Whereas Supermassive Wayne says, Andy fucking Burnham. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Is that...
Neither of them can lead. Clive Lewis doesn't accept. Again, anyone who does not accept collective responsibility will never be able to lead people because you've got no authority.
Okay, well, listen, we're going to go. Nick Chat says, PG Tips ads equals peak monkey talent. Well, actually, monkeys, they're apes. Chimpanzees.
Didn't have tails.
Okay, right, we're going to leave it there. So thank you so much, Phil, for coming on and talking to us all. Jesus Christ, the chimps doesn't like it, Angela Rayner. Thank you very much for the comments. Thank you for the super chats. Really helpful keeping the channel going like that. Please, if there's one thing you could do on the way out, please give us a like for this broadcast so we can make more of them. And I'll be back at 9:30 tonight with the agenda. So please join us for that. And until then, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.